Ooh, look at that. New sheathing looks really good. Almost OEM. Hello my Saab friends, my name is Gary and this is my channel Weeks to Weeks. If you're not familiar with this car, it's my laser red, my daily driver 0893 Aero with the 2.8 liter V6 turbo, and I am currently in the process of a lot of different work that you'll see in a future video, or actually a couple future videos. So long story short, I'm doing an upgrade on the intercooler pipes, doing a DIY friendly or a cost-effective way of upgrading your intercooler. Going to be redoing my headlights, re-clear coating those, and there's a bunch of other stuff going on here. What I noticed is just due to the age of the vehicle and the fact that this engine is shoehorned in here, meaning that there's not a lot of space to service this. There's not a lot of space for the heat to dissipate, hence why you cook things like the overflow tank, burn up coils, the list goes on. But one thing I'm noticing with the age of this vehicle is something that's pretty simple to replace, but it's something that actually serves a good purpose, and that's this shielding over these wires. And what I noticed while I was installing my intercooler pipes, specifically the cold side pipe going from the intercooler up to the throttle body, underneath it and somewhat hidden is this wire sheathing, and you can see it's just crumbling to pieces. And the only thing holding this one together is just what's left of the electrical tape, but you move that and you can find the wire inside there. But you know, just from removing this charge pipe and disturbing these wires a little bit, I mean, you can see all of the crust that has come off and fallen into these voids from that. So what I need to do is take a shop vac, vacuum up this stuff. I also need to get rid of all this old crusty nonsense. Now, I'm not going to replace all of it, just in the well-worn areas leading all the way down underneath the throttle body. And that kind of poses another issue, is that this cable underneath the throttle body that I presume loops around, goes into connector, goes back in behind here and connects into the electric throttle body. I presume that this needs replaced as well. And looking down in there, these wires, looks like there's some copper exposed. So I'm hoping to get better access to that. I don't know if you'll see it in this particular video, but I'm hoping to clean that up, resheathe that, and protect those wires. But why it's so important, even though that once you remove this sheathing, the wires themselves still have some electrical tape on them, and on top of that, the casing protecting the actual copper inner core of the wires. Well, it's so important because it's only a matter of time before this touches something hot, say like the valve cover, and at this point this is just added protection. Well, with that gone, this inner wire is more vulnerable, so you can lead to a whole host of problems. And also, if that wasn't bad enough, looking down in here, there's remnants of peanuts and some other stuff, and I don't know if the previous owner was having an after baseball game snack while working on the engine, or if there was a mouse nest at some point. I presume it's the latter, but it definitely needs cleaned up. So it's a good time to clean up all this junk, whether it be the remnants of the mice or this electrical wire. But it's something that it's good to take a little extra time to re-protect this stuff before I put all of this back together. So without further ado, let me show you how we're going to clean this up. And well, let's go ahead and get started. Before we put the new sheathing on there, obviously we're going to clean things up. So I got a El Cheapo shop vac, and we'll see how much we can clean up. Next step is fishing for peanut shells. Haha. That's pretty gross. Only way to repair the wires underneath are going to be to take the throttle body off. We'll remove the 4 10mm bolts, and then hopefully this throttle body should easily come off. Found my 1/4" drive with the 10 mil. It's working out a lot better than these bottom ones at least. Probably not a bad idea to clean the throttle body while it's off. And this is the reason I took off the throttle body, is because of this. I noticed this underneath the throttle body because I was focused on the sheathing that was falling apart. Well, apparently it fell apart, was touching the valve cover or something to where it emitted enough heat to melt it, and then if the camera focuses, you can see a little bit of copper exposed. Yeah, that could definitely lead to a lot of problems down the road. So, I'm gonna go ahead and take care of that now before it becomes a bigger issue in the future. Took some time off camera and I repaired that bare wire, and then I covered it in some cloth style electrical tape, and then we'll of course put split loom over top of this for an added layer of protection, and it'll look almost OEM. If you're wondering as far as tape, you can definitely get away with just standard vinyl electrical tape, which is this glossy stuff, and you can find it just about anywhere for extremely cheap, and a lot of the Saab wires are covered in it. But I like to go a step further and use this kind of a cloth style tape. This is a monster roll, and I picked it up at my local mom and pop hardware store, and you can look up the part number right there. But there's no big box store near me that had that, but I think it gives a cleaner look. I mean, no matter what, it's going to be messy, and quite honestly, it's going to be covered in some sheathing, so it doesn't really matter. But some of this other exposed stuff, I'm going to use this, and I think it looks great. So now we'll just take some sheathing here, and we'll kind of ballpark it, and cut this to length. And this is just 1/4" split loom sheathing that I had laying around in my garage, and the original stuff I think on this one is a little bit bigger than 1/4", maybe 5/16, but this should do perfectly fine. On the farthest ends, I like to use a little zip tie to add some strength to the end so it doesn't just fall apart. There's the harness fully repaired. Now I'm good to clean the throttle body surface, throw a new gasket on the throttle body, as well as clean the throttle body. Reattach the 4 10mm bolts. This section will be buttoned up, and then we're good to replace these other 2 sections. Throttle body is cleaned up. Definitely not perfect, but a lot better than it was. And it'll sit like that. The gasket just laying there in the proper orientation. So the thing is, this clip, whenever I took it apart, it was in rough shape, and I'm on a time crunch here. Eventually I'd like to replace it, but for now kind of stuck with what I have, and we'll get a zip tie or 2 on here and lock this in, kind of like how it was originally, or I should say whenever I took it off, because I did not break this clip. That's how it was. But like any old vehicle, like the sheathing I'm replacing, like this power steering pump, just rubber thing that holds the harness in here, all this stuff is becoming brittle with age and just kind of crumbling. So this is all stuff that I'm gonna eventually replace, just this not right now. We can now finish things off with this stretch here and this one. How I'm going to do that is with this split loom right here, which is 3/8. This is again something I had laying in my garage. I purchased many years ago and I've never used. So this is great, easy to use, easy to get on the wires, and we'll just cut it to length. finalized product. Not perfect by any means, but it blends in very well with the original harness. This one up top here, starting there, runs along here. There's 2 wires. This one splits off. It's a grounding cable. That one never had a loom on it, at least not on this car, so I'm leaving it bare like that. Then it arcs into here and then goes into the coil pack harness, whereas this one, kind of more by the power steering pump, runs along here, goes into this block. This block was actually very simple, this whole line to do, mainly because you can cut the zip tie. This one I cut, this one I left. You see down in here there's a tab, get your screwdriver, pry it, and you can actually pull this up. Makes this nice and loose, and it's very easy to replace that. Hardest part of my repair is, of course, underneath that throttle body. More time consuming because you obviously have to remove the throttle body, and then I had to repair that copper wire under there. As far as sizing and price and everything, these 2 lines use the split loom that's 3/8 in size. You typically buy it in 10-foot sections in that bag, and it's right around $6. Underneath here, this I already had. It was 1/4 inch, and again, that's going to be around $6 for another 10 feet, but I would recommend, if you had to repair this, probably do like 5/16, which is a little bit bigger. And of course that tape, if you have the regular vinyl style tape, you probably already have it laying around, but if you buy that fancy stuff, another $6. So you're looking at $18 to repair this stuff. Quite honestly, I think it's well worth the investment in the time. Nobody's really ever going to see that because you have the cold side charge pipe over top of here, but it's so nice knowing that you have that peace of mind, knowing this stuff is repaired, because these vehicles are only getting older, the plastic is only getting more brittle, and of course the rubber more petrified. So once you find something like that, it's best to fix it right then and there if you want to prolong the life of your car. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. I have plenty of Saab stuff like you saw today. So if you like this how-to kind of thing I've been doing, consider subscribing. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop a comment down below. With that being said, I'll catch you friends next time. Ooh, look at that. New sheathing looks really good. Almost OEM.